Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this week's episode of the Author Collaborative. I'm doing this after a gap of a week. I could not find a guest for the last week's Author Collaborative, so we had a little gap. But now we are back with the Friday Author Collaborative episode, and I'm really excited to host today's guest. I have. Hi, Nilshri. Before I start the episode, I just want to say thank you to everyone for your lovely wishes. I had an amazing birthday, but I was a little off from social media, so I could not respond to everyone's messages. Thank you, everyone, for the many messages that you have sent my way. Birthday was really good, Nilshri. Thank you for asking. Okay, so without further ado, I have today's guest already here. Let me invite him and start the episode. I'm really excited for today's guest because not only is his poetry writing very similar to me, he writes contemporary poetry, and I found the poems very similar to the way I write. But he is also somebody with the same last surname. I'm really excited to host this particular guest. Uh, Kalpesh Desai is the name of the guest, and we are going to talk about his book, Jasmine's in Her Hair, and it's a lovely contemporary poetry book collection. Okay, I am somehow unable to invite him. Let me try again. Okay, I have sent you an invitation. Kalpesh, see if you can accept it. Let's hope this works. But Instagram glitches every time. I don't know how and when they will get resolved. It's getting a little. Do stay connected. He's going to be with us in a few moments. Sorry for the delay. I'm just figuring out what the issue is. Let me try sending him an invitation again. Hi, Smriti. Thank you for joining. Uh, I have sent you a fresh invitation, Kalpesh. See if you can accept it. Yes, we are here.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are
Welcome
you?
to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very excited to host you. As I was mentioning earlier, that this is the first time I have somebody with the same last name as me. But first off, we have to clarify to everyone that we are not
I
related.
know.
And also, we belong to different communities. Yes, we don't
Absolutely.
want to spark the
Otherwise, we're going to
conversations
put
on nepotism.
conversation on
देसाई है
nepotism.
इसीलिए तुमने गेस्ट बुलाया ऐसा. So, welcome. I'm
Right.
very excited. We are going to
Absolutely.
talk about your book, Jasmine in her hair. But before that, let's introduce you to the audience. Tell us about you.
So my name is Kalpesh Desai. I live in Dubai. I am a serial tech entrepreneur. I run a software business that sells our own products to the insurance and
Wow.
investment management sectors, with customer base across 35 odd countries. And in every meeting or in every relationship or in every incident, I have this tendency to think of anecdotes based upon the event, and even take down notes on what I was processing at that time. And I find
There's some glitch. Please stay connected. I'm sure Kalpesh will be able to join us back. There was a flag in between. Yes.
I'm
Yes. I think the audience wants to know about
I
your
see.
book and
Okay,
you.
so
We
should I
have a
repeat myself?
comment coming in.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So my name is Kalpesh Desai. I live in Dubai. I am a tech entrepreneur, and I have run and exited two businesses in the past. This is my third venture. It's called Agile Financial Technologies, and it services the banking and insurance sector
Wow.
with our own products. Customer base across 30 countries globally. That's who we are. I am a poet. I'm a closet poet in the sense that I've always been a poet for a long time. I've used poetry to process my thoughts. I find it therapeutic. I find it, an easier way to communicate whatever insight I would have got from the incident, be it personal or at work or inspirational or motivational. Even when somebody's
Yes.
down and you're picking them up, you learn a lesson
Yeah,
from every
definitely.
experience. So
That's another reason that I
I
was
felt
so
poetry was a
excited
good
for this
medium for that.
episode
So that's
because
where poetry
I
comes
find your
in.
poetry writing style very similar to mine. In fact, not some, but most of the poems that I read in your book, Jasmine's in Your Hair, I was
Correct.
like, my God, this is exactly how I write. And this, nobody, if you don't tell the name, nobody would be able to tell whether Kalpesh has written or Manali has written.
Yeah,
That's the kind of similarity. Okay, so
I see. Okay. Wow. No, I
thank you.
enjoyed your book as well. So
Thank
I
you
mean,
so much.
I
Very
love
happy to hear
the
that.
heartstrings of
But
the
right
book.
now, the
I think
focus is on
I'll
you.
talk about it as
So,
well.
this is the book that we
Yeah.
are talking about. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of glare coming in. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
This. And let's talk about the cover. I mean, the cover itself is so contemporary. It's modern art. Like, and you know right away that this is going to be contemporary poetry galore. And I have not counted the number of poems, but I think there are more than 100, right? Oh my God.
They're around 150
Amazing, amazing.
odd poems,
And
I think. Yeah. Yeah.
it flows so smoothly. I mean, some poems are very, very short, like about 5 to 6 lines, and some of them like are a page long. The maximum I think is a page long poem. But I love somebody who can convey so much in so few words.
Correct.
And I'm also somebody like that. I write short content and I enjoy reading also short, concise content. And I have to tell you, I've read a lot of it, but yours was like resonating on a very personal level. So, absolutely amazing, amazing experience of reading the book.
I, I think that
Okay.
comes from my hatred of meetings.
Yeah.
So, so when you have a meeting, I want someone to get to the point quickly. I want to get to the
Yeah.
point quickly. So,
A lot
I think
of
that's where
people are
it
saying
comes
hello.
from.
Hi,
The
Natasha.
the
Somebody else
ability to
in
put
the
that
group
in
said
writing.
hello.
So,
Afsana is
hi,
saying like Desai
hi.
minds. Yes, we are like, I think that's where our similarity comes in and ends. That we are Desai and both of us are contemporary poets who write similar. Okay, so talking about the book again, showing the cover to the new people who have joined, Jasmine in her hair, and a beautiful poetry collection. I am going to read out a couple of poems. I'm going to choose randomly. I am in the menu, table of contents, and I'm just going to Manali Samli. Audios are lagging and crossing over. Oh, is this an issue that everyone is facing? Do let us know. We have a comment here from Nilshri. She's saying there is some glitch. Yes. Okay. So
Aisha,
I
my
am
doubt.
in the table of contents of the book, and I'm just going to randomly click on any poem and read because there are so many annotations that I was confused ki kaun si padhun. So I'm just going to click on anything randomly. Okay. This is the one I have
Okay.
come across. Can I love you a little less? Unfortunately, it is one of the shortest ones, but I can assure you that will not take away from the charm that it holds. Okay, so this is the title. Can I love you a little less?
Hmm.
And it goes like this. I know I didn't say this before. Sorry, I know I didn't say this to you before. But is it okay if I love you a little less and love me a little bit more? Absolutely amazing. Like, this has to be like given to everyone. कि समझो सेल्फ लव सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है. Okay, I will read out a couple of more because that one was very, very short. Okay, weak promises.
Somebody says
Okay.
Kasta
Oh,
Aage,
I found
probably
the one
Kasta.
that I annotated. This is titled Weak Promises. And it goes, the weakest promises are usually made when difficult conversations they wish to evade. So, so true. Like, we are, I think, at the most vulnerable when we make some promises, which ultimately I believe we don't end up following.
Correct. I think when you're in a spot where you're not given the
Exactly.
space to maneuver out or give an explanation, and then your
I'm
back is against the wall,
going to
I
read
think
out
that's
a
when
poem from another
you
section
want to
because the
get out of
poetry
those
book is
situations.
divided into 5 sections, I believe, right? Seven, yes. So I am going to read out from memories
Seven,
now.
seven.
And because monsoon is my favorite season, I can see a title named that. This one is titled Monsoon Memories. And it goes, and then there we were, drenched by the heavy rain, under the tree in the narrow lane. I watched you as the raindrops lingered on your lips. I felt the brush of your fingertips. And as you moved in closer, your head on my shoulder, seeking shelter, my heart was pounding. My tongue was tied. My steady embrace, my feelings belied. Amazing, amazing. There are so many such. Uh, we have another comment
Thank
here
you.
which is saying that there is overlapping. If this is an issue, we can have Kalpesh rejoin. Please let us know in the comments. If everyone is facing this issue where we are not able to hear or see either of us properly, we can we can have Kalpesh exit and come back again. Let us know in the comments. Yes. So by the till the time we wait for people to confirm that, I'm going to read out one more poem. I don't want people to miss out
Great,
the
continue.
questions that I'm going to ask and the answers that you
Okay.
provide. That's why. Okay, let's go to the titular poem. There's one poem which
All
is
right.
titled Jasmine's in Her Hair. I'm going to read that out. So this one is called Jasmine's in Her Hair, and it goes, I dreamt of fragrant flowers last night, the kind we adorn deities with, and I fantasized, recalling the sight of a beautiful soul bearing it all, bit by bit. Did you dream of me like I dreamt of you? Did you feel all that I felt too? Okay, we don't have any comments who are confirming or negating what we asked, so we are going to
Yes, sir.
continue. Okay. Now, based on my
So we're going
experience
to
of
continue.
reading the book, and because I'm a curious soul who wants to learn from every possible author out there, I have a few questions for you. Are you ready? Okay. Let me just roll up the questions that I had for
Sure.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have them here. I had shared them with you. We have some lovely hearts coming in for your poems, and people have also commented that they love your poems. While I was reading, while I was reading, a
Thank
lot
you.
of hearts
I
were
can see.
coming in.
Yeah, Smriti. Thank you,
So
Smriti.
yes, it seems I'm not the only fan you have. Okay, my first question to you is: it is believed and said that poetry isn't as lucrative a genre in the publishing or reading community. What are your thoughts on this? And can you share your experience, how your experience has been in regards to this?
I think so. Yes, I think poetry is, if you look at books in general today that are being sold, I think other than fiction and non-fiction books where you'll find a voracious audience, poetry and especially contemporary poetry is deemed to be more like a work of art than a literary work. So you do have a small niche that reads poetry. Not everybody reads poetry. So in that sense, yes, it is. It may not be as
Hmm.
lucrative as you
Hmm.
think. However, poetry books tend to be shorter than novels, for example, right? And I think
Exactly.
when you say lucrative, I'm a Gujarati, I think profit, right? So the book will sell for the same, but then the margins are higher, so you'd tend to get a larger margin than if you look at traditional books or novels which are, let's say,
Hmm.
400, 600 pages
Hmm.
long, they would typically sell for almost the same kind of pricing that a poetry book would. So I think the margins are higher as long as you sell, right? And I think if you look at poetry as a genre across the board, and I was told this by a literary agent, and I
Oh
also validated
my
this for
God.
myself. Sales are dipping 16% year on year.
Hmm.
At the same time, you are looking at almost 100,000 poetry books being launched every year. So competition is increasing. The market is, I mean, because of competition increasing, I think you're seeing a lot more confusion in the market in terms of how that goes. So as long as you're able to make a
Yeah.
niche for yourself, it is lucrative. So I think that's really where it is. I don't think you can expect to make
Hmm.
millions of dollars unless you're out there
Yeah.
pitching it all the time.
Yeah, I
So I think
think
it really depends
that
on what you're
that is
launching
something
the
that
book
I
for.
have also personally experienced, and I keep telling everyone who asks for this advice कि मैं publish करूँ, मुझे पैसा मिलेगा या नहीं, and all that. I'm like, be clear with your purpose. Do you want to become an author or do you want to earn money? Both the things are not going to be possible.
Correct. Right. So I think earning
Hmm.
money from a book
Yeah,
these
it's
days
difficult.
is a very difficult
Yeah, and
proposition.
because
Not
of the
impossible,
reasons that you
but very
mentioned, that
difficult.
not only is the
So that's
competition
a yeah.
increasing, but there are lesser and lesser readers also, I believe.
Correct. And I think even poetry has been split into multiple subsections,
Yes.
right? That you got YA, you got, different genres that have actually come into poetry. So I think as long as you're
Yeah.
very clear about your niche, you're very clear about your target audience, I think you'll always have sales. So one of the
Hmm.
I, I think I was quite fortunate because I have a strong engaged audience already on Instagram. So I emerged as an Insta poet, right? So I think in that sense, I think I've had a lot of
Hmm.
validation and support from my own followers, plus support
Yeah.
from the poetry community itself on Instagram, which is a very strong community. I think we support each other, and I think there were some phenomenal poets here. So I think even during the launch of my book, I had a lot of support in terms of design. Even the cover design, for example, is the
Wow.
cover has been designed by a fellow poet called Dennis Red. So I'll it's if you go through my post, you will see it's a Turkish lady who designed the art cover on the book. Then even the editing, I had the first round of editing done by a poet. She's based out of Indonesia called Roxanne. And then Rout helped me as well go through the second edition of my
Mhm.
book. So I think we've had
Yeah.
quite a few
That's
crowds,
that's a very important and valid point
support
that you
from
have
the
made.
community
That
itself.
I think, and that's become possible because of the advent and rise of social media. The digital age has made it possible for us to grow as a community, I think.
Correct.
And yes, I absolutely agree that when you have
Correct.
the support of the community, the author
Absolutely correct.
community, the blogging community, the writing community, you can, yeah, it makes a big difference.
Correct.
Yeah.
Makes a big
Okay,
difference.
coming to my second question now, which is social media.
Absolutely.
We are already talking about social media, and that brings me to my next question. Social media marketing has become a must for books and writing. Do you think it has taken over
Right.
the offline routes for writers?
I don't think so. I think there's a so for spoken word poetry, for example, I mean where I see a lot of poets who have reached a certain level of threshold in terms of following and readership, they still benefit and they still benefit from actual physical campaigns and spoken word shows. But I think Insta poetry, if I look at Instagram and even TikTok in some parts of the world, I think is very important
Hmm.
because you will find that a lot of your buyers would come in from that space. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are very good platforms to essentially promote your book. What I did is I started looking at, I had a lot of support again. Quite a
Hmm.
few poets came forward and did spoken word poetry for my poems from the book. That helped in
Wow.
a lot of promotion.
Amazing.
Some of them even hit 1 million views,
Are there
which
any poems
shocked me.
from this book
So that
or were
was,
they independent?
yeah,
Oh,
that was really good.
wow.
A
Please,
million,
please do tell
yeah,
us. I mean, please
from this
share
book,
those million
from
view
this
poetry reels
book. So I
on your
think
story and tag me. I will reshare.
I will, I will, I will, I will do that. I'll certainly share that.
Hmm.
Then I found that spoken word
Yes.
poetry has a lot of impact, especially if they're short and succinct, 15 seconds, 30-second quotes. They have a lot of impact. And I think I've
Wow.
seen a lot of my audio being used in reels of others. And that kind of helps propagate the information of books. So, yeah, I think definitely social media marketing is absolutely key. Social media presence is absolutely key
Yes. But having said that,
in the
yeah.
propagation of your book.
Hmm.
But it'll not take away. I think, like I said, there are two different streams. But
Yes.
you can't go and do a road show unless people know you. Nobody's going to come and nobody's going to pay for a ticket to attend your show till there are enough. Till
That
people recognize you
actually
as a
brings
poet
me
or an
to
author
another point where
is then invited to
this
be a
holds
speaker
true.
in
Not
a session. So
of course it holds true for us because we are talking about our community, but on a larger audience, in where in a genre that people are more immersed into, even in movies, or for say example, say music concerts, or somebody who's performing live regularly. Even for those people, social media, if you see, it has become so important because that's where they are promoting their events. That's where they are selling their events. So
correct,
why should it not hold true for us? Yes, we had Sukana here
correct,
who was saying hi. Hi, Sukana.
absolutely.
And she also mentioned that Facebook is still one of the best platforms to find. Definitely. Absolutely. I still think that most of my audience, reading
Absolutely.
audience, comes from
Absolutely.
Facebook. Even though I'm not very active as I am on Instagram, I'm not as active on Facebook, but still a lot of my audience comes from there. Do you also believe that?
This I unfortunately I didn't, and I think it's more from a want of time than anything else. I did not focus on my Facebook page. I only focused on the Instagram page because it allowed me to get faster. I found on Facebook, I found a lot of, I found that my reach wasn't as much as Instagram for whatever reason. I think
Hmm.
that's where it is. So I focused on Instagram, and I genuinely do not have the time
Yeah.
or the space to
Correct.
have,
Yes,
you
because of
know,
your.
say
Yeah.
I also have a LinkedIn account
Okay.
which is reasonably active. Yeah, which is reasonably
LinkedIn is
active. So
also actually
so
for writers also it has
LinkedIn
a
from
very
a
good
business
reach, I
perspective,
believe.
Instagram from a poetry, but not poetry.
Okay.
Many of my colleagues and my
Ah,
customers do not
okay.
know that I
So
write
you are
poetry.
keeping the
So,
two
and I
professions
like to
separate.
I
Like
maybe I like
LinkedIn
to
is
keep it that way.
purely for your entrepreneurial work.
So,
Yeah.
separately, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Oh, wonderful.
correct.
Oh,
And
we have a
also for the business books
nugget
that I'm
here.
setting
Little
up
tiny
along.
nugget coming in. So, okay, tell us about that. So you are bringing out a business book?
It's a storytelling business book. I mean, it's called the Pattern Principle. And one of the things that has over the 30 years of experience, one of the things that I
Hmm.
found is when you look at businesses, we focus on
Hmm.
processes,
Wow.
and then we complain when processes fail. And I have just said that we need to chunk a little bit lower in terms of why
Ah,
is it
interesting.
that processes don't fail, they mutate is what I said.
Hmm.
They mutate because of people, because of practices, because of behavior, because of various factors, and
Hmm.
these are pattern. And how do you know that they mutate? You identify patterns. So what I've done is I've taken the approach of telling a story. So each of the chapters is
Yeah,
actually a
oh,
story,
I
much
liked
like
how we
your
segued
storybook.
into my book because this
So
is
that's it.
like where I am ending my questions for you and I'm leaving the floor to you. So,
Yeah,
yes, you have also
that's
read my book. Go on.
sure. I loved your book, and I think I have a few questions for you. I think so. One is, I think one of the things that I found about your book is that it resonates with the reader's own experiences, especially, I mean, one is coming in from India, hearing, listening to the song in the first instance, you immediately know what is probably coming, and then you got a twist in the end, right? So I think that really intrigued me. So I wanted to know, uh, what motivated you to explore those themes? How did your own life
Yeah. Before we
experiences,
do that, I'm just going to quickly
shape
show
the
the book
narrative?
cover to the audience so that they know what we are talking about. This is the book that we are talking about, Heartstrings and Harmonies. It's my ninth book, and it's a collection of short stories which are inspired by Hindi songs. Yes. So, coming to your question, I think it's a mix of both. I
Yeah.
think it's because I am a music lover. That's the most important factor that motivated and inspired me to write this book. Because all the 29 stories in the book are inspired by a particular song, to the extent that the lyrics of the song form a very major part of all the stories. Like the lyrics of the song are intricate to what happens to the characters' lives during the passage of the story. And uh, the
Hmm.
second reason I think is because I am somebody who's a very good observer. So I can be inspired by a story anytime. I notice the people around me. I pay attention to what they are saying. I pay attention to their actions. I pay attention to how their experiences have made them the kind of person that they are. And I think those those were the motivation and inspiration for each character in each story of this. Like they are very everyday characters, very everyday incidents, and it could have happened to you when you read. It could have happened to the person you know.
I, I think exactly. So I think every story resonates. So I think it's like, oh shit, this happened to me. This is something similar happened to me. So like
Thank you.
my shadow will follow you. That story hit hard.
Yeah.
I love that story.
So,
It's
would you like to read
yeah.
out from that story since you have mentioned it?
I will read out from that story. So I think it's just let me find the right part to start. Uh, so I'm going
Okay.
to just read out, and I think I'll leave it to the audience to figure out what has happened. Right. So he stopped to give her a smile and continued. You see, my mother passed away when I was quite young. She was unwell for a long time before the illness took her life. During the time, music and books were the glue that held my parents together. Ashwin paused to give his father a forlorn look before going on. The song you heard was in my mother's voice. It was a farewell gift of sorts she left behind for him. He discovered it in his room after the funeral. Sneha found herself feeling relieved and grief stricken at the same time. He plays it every night. She couldn't help asking, keeping her eyes trained on the man in the rocking chair. It was hard to believe a fellow bookworm had gone through such a tragic personal experience. That's right, every night since her passing, Ashwin confirmed. 1 year later, The House That Sings by Sneha Sani. It seemed that the house whispered at night, or rather sang its own tunes. As Smriti lay there in a bed, she couldn't help herself from wanting to know more. She needed answers. She had to find out the story behind a voice that was melodious enough to put her to sleep, yet creepy enough to keep her up. A tumultuous applause broke through the crowd, who had gathered in the cafe come bookshop for the launch of Sneha's debut novel. May I have my book back, please? Sneha looked up in surprise. Ashok uncle, I didn't know you were coming. She jumped up from the chair, went to hug the man who had inspired the writer in her. Note, this story was inspired by the prompt that seemed that the house whispered at night and was first published as part of the Block Checker
Thank you. That
blog
means a
community.
lot to me
I love
because
I love
this
this
particular
story.
story I was very skeptical about. Firstly, because it was the first time I was writing this genre, which is like a thriller horror. And secondly, because when I received the prompt, I knew that I wanted to try something in the horror genre. But I was like, can I write something which is scary enough? So,
Right. So, and I think that's what I love. I mean, about every story, I think you take the reader through a particular path, and then there's a twist in the end, which kind of is, it kind of puts a break
Thank
on
you. Thank
the
you.
on
That
your
makes me
thoughts at the
really
moment,
happy.
and then takes you on trail. I
For
think
those of
you
you
do
who
the
have
same.
just joined us,
So
we are discussing my
yeah,
book, Heartstrings and Harmonies. Before that, we were discussing Kalpesh's book, Jasmine's in Her Hair. Yes.
thank you. So I
Yes.
think that is that, and I think then I think maybe I can go on to my next question for you. You this is your ninth book, you said, right? So what is the advice you'd give to aspiring authors? Is there
I think
any
the
are there any
first
blind
do
spots, do's,
as a
don'ts that
debut
they should
author you
be aware
need
of?
to do is, or rather, I think it falls under both do's and don'ts. I would say don't fall under the trap of going for vanity publishing. I would say do the research about understanding how publishing works and what kind of publishing options are out there available. Talk to the people in the community. So I think that's one do and don't that I always tell, and I would continue telling everyone because that's the mistake that I made as a debut writer. I didn't do enough research, and I put out my debut book, and it was not a very pleasant experience. So I would say please do that. And another, I think we already discussed this, but I'm going to reiterate on that point, which is to be clear about your purpose of becoming an author. Why do you want to become a published author? You have to be clear about that. तुम्हें पैसे कमाने हैं या तुम्हें बस ऐसा published author वाला tag चाहिए? So yeah,
Correct.
okay, yeah. So these are the two things. Other than that, I would say
Absolutely.
that if you feel that you have good enough content, please do publish your work.
Absolutely. I think I completely agree with you. I mean,
Okay.
just to give you a perspective, Jasmine's in a Hair is not my first book. So I've written another poetry book called Anywhere But Here. It's an
Okay.
inspirational, motivational book, poetry and prose for entrepreneurs, managers, leaders. And I spoke with a literary agent, and it was put across to publishers, and then they said, "Listen,
Hmm.
we love the book, but you know, you're an unknown author, and you would need 2,000. If you had a previous book which had sold 2,000 copies, then maybe we would consider you." I said, "Okay." So I put that book aside, and I said, "Let's figure out how to sell." So this was in November last year. We produced the book in a month and then went to market. And then I said I will not. I had an agreement from a large publishing house, which I figured
Hmm.
was the moment I asked for money is when I figured it was vanity. And then I think again, I come from a business community. I will go and see how many books have you actually sold. What is the average sale of books? And I found out that despite their large name and their presence, the average sale that
Oh my God.
they had done for any given book was 300,000 US
Hmm.
dollars in the entire lifespan of the book. So I said, that's not what I want to do. I mean, that means you're going to just put it on the shelf. You're not going to do anything with it. You're not going to go to market with it. So, which is why I decided to self-publish. I
Oh.
discovered then that India, by the time the books reached India, it was 1,800 rupees, which didn't make sense. Then I tied up with Notion Press in India to publish it locally. I did the same in the Philippines, tied up with a company called Bookshelf to publish it locally in the Philippines. So I was able to get the book across in markets where I felt had a large readership at a cost proposition that matched the competition, if I can call it that, in that market. So
Hmm.
so that's what I did. And I think we pretty much figured it out in terms of how to go to market. I'm not sure if we do need publishers now, but yeah, I mean, I think having a big weight publisher, either I would go with a
Yeah,
big weight publisher
exactly.
for my next
So,
book, or I will self-publish, and nothing in
my
between.
thing with this kind of
Uh,
thing where authors are going for vanity publishing is that what is your ROI? I mean, invest wisely if you really want to do that. For try at least try and understand what your ROI is
right,
going to be. As you mentioned earlier, being a gujju, the first thing that comes in my mind is मुझे मेरा पैसा
exactly.
वापस
So
मिलेगा
I
कि
think
नहीं?
no. So if I'm going to spend
Exactly.
$10, if I'm not going to get that money back, then that's not worth spending the money. So the approach that I have taken in terms of my
Exactly.
promotion is that I will plow back the royalties that are accrued to me back into the promotion of my book, and I'll do that for a year,
Yeah.
and that's it. I'm not
That's
taking
a
out of my
very,
money
very smart way.
anymore
And
to
I
promote
do
my
that
book.
too. And thank you for saying that because I
But I
don't
think
think I
that's
have
worked well.
mentioned it
So,
anywhere else also. That whatever you are earning, put it back into your promotion and then see how your book is performing.
so Nicole is here. She's
Hi
she's
Nicole,
the
thank you for
editor of
joining.
my first book, which I still haven't published. And if it, and if you're looking for an editor, she's
Wonderful,
the
Nicole.
best that I've come across. She'll dissect your book till
Yeah,
you're raw.
so yes, so that's about it. That's the
Yeah.
two main
Yeah.
takeaways that I would give any aspiring author. Yes. So now we come to the most interesting and
Okay.
my favorite part of the live, which is the rapid fire round. How we will do it is I will ask one question and then you ask one
Okay.
question. Right? Yeah. So my first question to you is a poetry book or a
All
poet
right.
whose
Okay.
works you enjoyed and would recommend to everyone.
So I will not stick with one.
Hmm.
And the reason is that, and I'm also not going to, I'm going to stick with our contemporary poets. I think there are, there's phenomenal talent amongst our Insta poetry community. And I'll start by, you've got, let me pull out the names here for you. There's Homesick by Nadia Rana. There's Where Written Words Remain by Jasmine Miro. Then there's The Weight of Missing by Emily Paget. Then there is Sensitivity by Annie Pasquale.
Hmm.
Then I have seen, just a second, I'm just pulling up my names, okay? Um, then Sinead, again, I don't remember her thing. And then there's Moonlight and Moonlight and
Nicole is saying I
one
edited
second.
that one. She edited Homesick.
That's I know she edited that one. I love the book and I love the layout. I love the content. So
Okay,
Moon, Mo- Moonlight and Meanderings by Violet Moon Poetry. So you got a whole host of poets right here on Instagram,
definitely,
in our poetry
definitely.
community, who I think we should look at and promote. There is Elise, and I think it's called 1600 Days of Moving On. That's another phenomenal book.
Hmm.
Then there is Kathy, who published "I'm Not Here to Please the World." Then there's Vanita Chawda.
Hmm.
Then there are a few poets from the Philippines. There's Starry Night, which is written by Juana Garcia. Then there is Tears into Stars, written by Rose Solis. So I think you've got some phenomenal poets that you just need to support right here. And I don't think
What
you need to look
I'm
elsewhere.
going to suggest, Kalpesh,
Very good
is
contemporary
the names
poets
that you
and
have
poetry
mentioned
in our own
after
community.
this episode ends. Give them a shout out on your story and I will reshare them.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll send you a list.
because I would love to check out
I
the
do.
books that you
I
have
will do that.
mentioned, and also, of
I'll do
course,
that.
they will also get a wider audience, which is what the purpose of this entire episode is. Okay,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
question.
Correct. Yeah. So I think my question is, which of
uh,
your short
it's a
stories were
difficult one, but a
inspired you one of
few,
all?
I would say about five or six of them are inspired by uh, some things that happened with me on a personal level. Uh, Two of them I can think of from the top of my head. Is one of them is my companion of this crazy world, where two friends are, they are attend they are on the way to college and something happens and they end up taking the same bus, and I think that's a very funny story because something like that happened to me also. We were not going to college, but I think we were leaving from a coaching class, and we were trying to catch the bus, and the if you have ever visited Mumbai, you must know that the local buses. We have the local BEST buses there, and we were trying to catch that bus, and we had not yet reached the bus stop, but the bus was moving away. So we literally ran to catch that bus. one of us got in, the other one extended the hand out and
Mhm.
alighted the bus. So that's taken directly from my life. So in the story, also, I'm mentioning this particular scene where one of the friends puts a hand out for the other one to get into the bus. So that's one of my favorite stories. The other, yeah, and there's another one I'm
Mm.
forgetting.
That's you.
There's one about two brothers. The world slogan "Stay Vigilant," where we are talking about two brothers, Manav and Mayank, and the younger one is a little laid back, while the elder one is like excelling in everything. Like he's good at studies, he's good in extracurricular activities, everything. And the younger one is like poking fun at his family members and the brother, like मैं तो कुछ नहीं हूँ, मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, I am going to be the way I am. So that's also inspired a little from my own personal experiences, where I am the younger sibling, my elder brother is an overachiever, and school life was very similar to the one that the younger sibling had. So that's we have a question from Nicole. So Nicole,
I
I
see.
do have 9 books. A few of them are poetry books, but currently we are talking about this book, Heartstrings and Harmonies, which is a collection of 29 short stories. Yeah.
By the way, I forgot to mention one of the poets who really
Oh
helped
wow.
me in my publishing
Okay.
journey, and
Yep.
it is Alexander Popa, who wrote a book called Tiny Thoughts. And I think, and then we also have Valerie Lorraine, and we also have Brandy Lane, who are very talented poets here. So I think
Yeah. Can
that's
you
something
show
I
the
just wanted to,
cover
before
again?
I
I'm
forget, I just wanted to
very
make sure I
impressed by the
mention.
cover.
So
Such a
yeah, so please, sorry, I
minimalistic but beautiful
interrupted.
cover.
Yeah, and then you have
Love, love is
there's an
pain.
anthology we came in,
Yeah.
but that's Brandy
Okay.
Lane. Love is Pain. Yeah. So
Yes,
I think there
exactly.
are. I mean,
Yes.
so you got some brilliant
Okay, which
artists
brings
here
me to my second
in
rapid
the
fire
community.
question for you,
So
which is a necessary trait or tool that you feel is necessary for poetry writing.
I think the ability for you to step
Yes.
outside the conversation and become an observer. So I think if you're in that frame of mind, I think you can essentially be you can observe. So even if it's a conversation that you're having with somebody, if you can just step back and then look at the conversation as if you're the observer on the conversation, and then look at the perception of how how both parties are feeling. I think
Hmm.
that's really a very powerful trait, and it'll help you distill your thoughts faster. And it could also be a situation. So let's say if I am in a stressful situation, I can't write about the stress because I'll be overwhelmed with everything that's happening to me.
Hmm.
But if I step back and I look at what's happening to me as an outsider looking in, I can then throw a different
It is so
perspective
true. Yes,
onto
you
it, and that's
have to.
also helped
I
me in
think
that
that's an
manner.
important trait to have as a creator of your own content. Also, you have to give it that third person perspective to your content, to look at it subjectively without any bias. Also, that's a very important quality to have.
Correct. And I think that's somehow what I've also imbibed within my book. I mean, I think when you look at the this
Yes.
one underlying theme that you may find in Jasmine's Inner Hair is that of gratitude. So
Mm.
irrespective of whether it's a current partner or a past relationship
Mm.
or even grief or anger or whatever, so you'll not find anger in there in any form or manner. You may find regret, you may find but at the end of everything else, you'll also find that there's this sense of
Mm.
gratitude that you've enriched my life with these lessons which bring that forward.
Yes.
So and that
Nicole
only
here
comes
is
in when
saying
you
that's
really
an
look at
excellent
things from
thought,
the observer's
especially when
perspective.
writing characters. Yes. Um,
Right. Nicole, you've got
we
to
also
stay
had
tuned for my
Isha
next
here
book,
who
otherwise
said, "Gotta go,
it's
great
not going to
session." Thank
press.
you for joining us. Wisdom gained. Yes, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, your turn.
Right. So, what's the most
I think
challenging
empathy.
aspect of writing about
Empathy is
emotions for you?
very, not only is it important, but I think it's also very difficult to generate if you have not, experienced something like it. When you are writing the character's experience, it's not necessary, it's actually impossible to write everything that you have experienced. वरना तो I think if we write only based on our experiences, I think we'll only be able to write one book. उसके आगे जा ही नहीं पाएंगे. So yeah, I think generating and
Correct.
developing empathy is one of the most challenging things.
I agree. And I think one of the principles that when
No,
I'm communicating, one of the principles that I'm a student of
no,
NLP, neuro linguistic
I'm
programming,
not.
for many many years. I don't know if you're aware of what you're aware of NLP. So I think NLP dictates that everything exists within language. So one of the presuppositions of
Hmm.
NLP is that the meaning of the communication is the response it produces. So more often than not, when we are speaking with somebody and they don't understand you,
Hmm.
then what tends to
Hmm.
happen is that you tend to blame the other person for not getting what you're trying to say. Whereas if you are to adopt the presupposition, saying, "Listen, my communication hasn't landed and isn't producing the response I wanted. Hence,
Hmm.
that other person doesn't need to change. I need to change how I communicate, or what is
Wow.
it that I'm communicating, so that the other person gets it, and then we are aligned." So I think that's just an example of how it works. So I think that's that. So when you talk about empathy, I think it has a strong role to say that, listen, if a person hasn't got it,
In a better way.
then
Yeah.
I would want to take it upon me to say that it's because of how is it that I'm communicating, what is it that I'm communicating,
Yeah.
my body language
Wow.
that
Oh,
is
that was a very profound.
getting across.
Thank you for sharing
So
that. Okay. My next question is spoken word
most welcome.
poetry or written or reading poetry. Why?
I think I
Hmm.
both. I think. I mean, there are some poems that are very difficult spoken. I like I like spoken word poetry. I'm not biased towards it. I mean, I used to do a lot of it till a few months ago. I've done a lot less of it now.
Hmm.
Um, I like spoken word poetry because I think it resonates faster. You also have this issue with
Hmm.
audiences where, I mean, especially when you're doing spoken word poetry, you're putting it up on social media, right? And
Yes.
you'll find that the attention span is no more than 15 to 20 seconds.
Hmm.
So if it's a long-winded poem, you're not going to get any
Yeah,
readership anyway.
I
So
also
it might
enjoy
as well be written.
spoken word poetry. I also do it myself. But I also think that written communicates better. I think because you are leaving it up to the reader how to interpret it.
Correct. Absolutely. So I think I do both. I think I would just choose which poems of mine I would like to do spoken and which I would like to do sing. And
Yeah,
under any
yeah, that's a
circumstance, when
good
I
habit.
write
Yeah.
poetry, I would speak it aloud to myself.
Hmm.
So, just to understand how this landing, is the tone right, the cadence right, is it that way.
Okay, your
So I
question.
think I think yeah, I mean that's really where that is. So how do you balance multiple themes within a single collection? Because you've got
Uh,
like four or five
so
themes in your book,
largely,
right?
and
So
again,
how do
I'm
you
saying
balance
this
that?
based on my experience of writing a few books now. I wrote my first poetry book and put it out without it having a proper theme. And I realized what kind of a mistake that was, because not only did it, I mean, it was received well and it is still being received well. But as an audience, when you look at, it again, you have to separate yourself from your content. That is also something that I learned based on that experience, that, you have to look at it from the audience perspective, look at it subjectively. Don't have a bias towards your own content. So, yeah, separating myself from that content made me realize that having a theme based book is very important. Even if you are having multiple stories or multiple viewpoints in a single book or a single story. It has to have a larger theme where everything is making sense in that particular bit. So for this particular book, I
Sense.
always knew that I wanted to
Correct.
cover the umbrella feeling of love, different kinds of love, not just love between two partners, like who are romantically involved. I wanted friendship love. I wanted familial love.
Friendship.
I wanted love which is based on hope. I wanted love which comes out of
Correct.
grief or healing. So that's the kind of thing that I was going for. And when I put them into these sections, these were the kind of themes that I have experienced in my life itself. Like we have all, I mean, we all have family love, we all have friendship love, we all generally have a romantic love also in our lives.
Correct.
Whether or not it is reciprocated, it's a different matter. But yes, we do have a special someone in our life, which categorizes into a romantic kind of love. And then of course we have also experienced some kind of loss or pain. Again, that also comes out of love.
Exactly. I think this is why you say that we write similar, because I
Yes,
think that's
exactly.
exactly what
Like you have
the
divided
theme of
into
even
sections, and
Jasmine
so
and her hair is
beautifully
about.
it is done. I would not have
Yeah.
thought of those
Yeah.
sections myself. Like dividing them into so beautifully meaningful
Yeah.
segments. Okay, so that brings me to my next question.
Thank
Your
you.
favorite time or spot for writing?
Yeah. It's typically in the evening, but I would, through the day,
Okay.
I would be taking on notes. So my note app is my best friend. And then, I would pretty much jot down, or, if I may come across a phrase that I have thought of, that I will speak it and take a voice recording, or I will note it down. And then towards the evening, I would expand on it. Usually, I think it's mostly the evenings that I would do that, and it's typically on my couch. And then, people complain that
Okay,
it's taking away time
wonderful.
from everybody
Yeah,
else. So I
so
think that's it.
I think that's a very important point that you made, because as somebody who is very creative, like our minds keep churning thoughts and ideas at a speed which we are not able to comprehend ourselves. So it's very important to have something where you can note down a particular idea that comes to you, which you can later convert into a bigger content
Correct.
piece.
Right. Correct. And I'm not going to admit I do it in the toilet. So,
Yes. And it's a myth that
writing notes.
whatever ideas you have will stay in your head. They will go away as quickly as they come to you, and they will never come back. So,
Hmm.
hmm.
Correct.
uh,
Nicole has a question
uh,
for you. Do you feel it was harder
I
to sell your poetry book or cross-selling
this
books?
so very you put me in a dharam sankat. Oh, she will not understand dharam sankat. Yes, moral dilemma. Uh, so
Nicole, it is moral
I
dilemma.
think I would promote my fiction more because I think it has a wider audience. And based on that, once I have that audience in my side, on my side of the content creation or as an audience, I would say, why not try this also? I do this, but I do this also very well.
Right.
So yeah. Okay. So
I think both do. So, yeah, absolutely. So I think, like I said, I agree with Manali Nicole that I think the stories would probably
yeah.
sell more and resonate more. Poetry has a very niche audience for all of us. I mean, I think that's what I've also found. Though I'm quite fortunate that Jasmine
You're
in
being
Hair has
very
had
modest.
some degree
You are
of
being very
success, but
modest. Please, it's not some. It's
I think
much
getting
more
a
than
storybook
some.
out there, I it's some it's much more than some is $1 million a year. So
Yeah, but like fingers crossed,
no, I'm
that
just
can also
joking.
happen. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
you were saying.
yeah. Let's see. That's
Yes.
all. So then my question for you.
No, I don't believe in the.
So what about
I'm
writer's block? Do you face that?
posting a
How do you
myth
handle it?
here, but I have to admit, it's not a writer's block. It's just lack of motivation, guys. It's not a writer's block. You are just either you are running out of ideas
Right.
or you just don't feel like writing. So this is what it is. So for me, it's always lack of motivation. And what I do is I just go back to something else which is creatively satisfying for me, which is usually coloring or reading. Either of these, or I just go out for a walk. Simply that also works sometimes. Spend some time with nature,
Mm.
be with yourself, give your thoughts some time where they are not interrupted by technology or other people. So that generally works. I was constantly.
Mm. So so somebody's asking what's going on. Is there a fight?
I
And
was
I'm saying that
constantly
this
hearing
is the
the
guy
meowing, and
doing
I was
whatever.
going to say, please, can we have it on on Insta? Like yeah.
Right.
I think yeah. They, oh
Which one?
my God, so beautiful.
So there are plenty. How many do you want?
See, that's why we were hearing, constantly hearing. They were
There are
like fighting with
three
each other.
castles
कि
over.
मेरी आवाज ज्यादा आएगी, मेरी आवाज ज्यादा आएगी. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
What
right.
were the names of those two?
Right. So the white one is Gypsy. The tabby is called Nemo. Then we got
Oh
another
wow.
rescue. She's not here. That's
Oh, we
Arabella.
have a lot of
And I've got a
animals
dog
there.
called
Yeah.
Mickey.
Both of them were beautiful. Thank you for bringing them
Family.
to the show.
Yeah.
They added the beauty factor to our episode.
Thank you.
Okay, so my coming to my last question
Okay.
for you, which is the one thing about Jasmine's in her hair you do differently now, and why?
So I think in my first poetry book, I chose to just not write the
Okay.
poem, but I also put in an explainer like a caption. And I wish I had done that for Jasmine's in her hair
Mm.
as well. So for each poem, I could have put in a caption which would have explained that. And Nicole knows that well because she helped me edit the first book. So she knows how the format that I ran. But I think that's pretty much what I would like to
Okay,
do. If I do
so
come up with a second
caption
edition,
as
then
in
that's what I'll do with
giving a
Jasmine's in her hair.
context to the poems, you mean? Ah, okay.
Like a context or the learning itself, because a poem could be interpreted in two
Okay,
different
that's an
directions, and then
interesting
you want to
angle
look
to
at it in that
have.
manner. So
I don't think. Let me just check. If we have Afsana here, I read her book recently, Afsana Badar. Afsana Badar. You can check out the book. It's called Nostos Homecoming, and she
hmm
has written a novel in verse form. And after each poem, she has explained what she meant. Like there's an entire page where she's explaining what happened in this particular poem and section of the book. So what you have said, matches with a recent reading experience that I had. So that's why I just wanted to bring it out. Nostos Homecoming. That's the title of the book of Sana Badar. You can check it out. Yeah. Okay. So that brings me to the
okay,
end of the
I
questions that I had
I'll
for
check
you.
it out surely. And then I think there's one last question for you, which is
Which
which author or book had the most significant impact on
yes,
your writing
Afsana is
style?
here.
I have Sana.
So yes, I was.
Which author?
Yes, you
Yeah.
were saying.
So I'll And I think before I get, I think Tanushi's asked a question as well. Do you like the idea of adding illustrations with each poem? I would say yes, but I am not talented enough. In my in this book, which is Jasmine's in Her Hair, I have got licensed line art. So the line art on the cover has been created by Denise Ered, Deniz IRED, who's another poet here on Instagram, and she also runs a publication called Prosetrix, which is a literary magazine. So she designed my cover. Then, um, but in terms of the artwork for my first book, was designed
Okay.
by the
Hmm.
internal artwork was designed by my daughter, but I used artwork only in the chapters, not across the poem. But yes, I mean, I I think it has a massive impact if you do have the talent of drawing, or you have somebody who can actually contribute. Tanushi, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring that in.
Yes.
It just brings up another
So
dimension to
my 2 cents
bringing the
on your
words alive.
question, Tanushi, is I have already done that with a couple of my books, and uh, being from the generation like you also, like, not, I don't want to say generation, I want to say belonging to the beginning, being in the community where Insta poetry has taken such a huge turn. Like, it has opened up avenues for us. But being from this community, I also know that how important it is to make your content visually appealing. And that's what Instagram has taught us, I think. Having something that talks about your poetry, having a visual representation of your content is very important. So adding them in your book is also going to just be an add-on to reaching a wider audience or making your content more appealing. Okay.
Sure.
Hmm.
I think Zoera has a question. Always five. She
Yes,
has a
we are
doubt.
here. We are also
What's your
answering your
doubt,
questions. Please feel
Zoera?
free to ask your questions in the comments. Okay, so you asked me. I'm sorry, I forgot the.
Which author
Oh,
or book has had the most
okay.
impact
So
on your writing style?
it's going to be very cliche, but I am going to say, belonging from the 90s generation, I am going to say J.K. Rowling. Uh, but that was much later. Like 98 में आई थी वो book, and I read it in around 2000 or 2001. And before that, I had always had Enid Blyton, and I mean, her books were like a major part of my growing up years. So yes, I mean, who can forget those?
Secret
And
Seven.
I'm sure whoever
Yeah.
grew up reading, like, were an early reader and did not begin reading like in their teenage or later years. बचपन में जो बुक्स पढ़ी है वो इनेट ब्लाइटन की ही बुक्स होंगी एंड दे वर अ ह्यूज impact.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Briar
yeah.
Rabbit. I don't know. Is it Briar Rabbit? I don't remember. Yeah. No, I know. I mean, I think it's been. I agree with you. I think their writing
Yeah.
style, played a big role in terms of our growing up. I mean, even
Yes,
even
so
during
how
the
can I
time that I
forget?
was growing up.
Yes.
But I also grew up on Ruskin Bond, and so yeah, yeah. So I mean, so a lot of these, lot of, and I mean,
Yes.
it
So
would
yes,
be
I forgot
amazing to. So I
Shivni
have this
Sheldon.
entire
Yes,
collection
Afsana had also asked me during that
of books.
episode when we did the author
Oh yeah,
collaborative. She had asked me a similar
absolutely.
question, and I had confessed that as a 90s kid, Ian Blyton, Sidney Sheldon, and Nicholas Sparks and J.K. Rowling. I think these were the four authors who had a big impact in my writing. Yeah. That brings us to the end of
Very
this
good.
episode. Did we miss any questions? Do you
Well,
guys have any more questions? Please send them in the comments before we wrap up. And before we go, I am going to read out one more poem because people should check out your book. While we wait for more questions, if any, to drop in, I am going to
thank
read
you.
out one more poem. Any particular one that you would like for me to read? Chalo, I say randomly, if you remember any title, tell me.
No, go. Yeah.
Okay, I am
No, no,
going
go,
to read
go
out
right
this
ahead.
one. In Her Almost. So this is titled In Her Almost. Almost has been put into inverted commas. And it goes like this. I love the many ways in which she says she loves me. And in her hesitant almost, I hear how she loves me the most. So we are now wrapping up. Do you guys
Thank
have
you.
any questions?
Beautiful poem.
We wait for the questions, but let's talk about this experience. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kalpesh, and I was really looking forward to this. And what an amazing, insightful conversation this has been. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanushi, for your wishes as well. And I'll be sure to pick up.
Thank you, thank you,
If I
thank you.
if I if I grab your book, if you've written a book, I'm going
Yes.
to go ahead and grab that too,
And Tanushi
as
is
well as
saying my best
Asana.
wishes.
Yeah,
She's saying best wishes to you. Great to hear from a fellow poet. You should also check out Tanushi's book. Books in fact. I have read only one book, and we have done an episode. But you should check out all her books.
I will.
And Nicole is saying a lot of hearts we are
I will
receiving from
definitely.
Nicole. Thank you so much, Nicole.
There are two on my list now.
Uh, so once again, thank you so much, Kalpesh, for joining
Thank you,
me. This has been a very good
Nicole.
episode. Bye. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you.